Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion advised. Welcome back, my furious friends. This is episode 9 of the Unshackled Fury podcast. I am your host, Berserker, and this is day 147 without Legion Alpha access. That's right. In case you thought any of this celebrity and fame was going to my head, I can tell you for a fact I have neither. And this show certainly has not been plugged into the pipeline that is the Blizzard machine. So no fear, we are all still fighting together on this one. This week, we're going to be talking about Alpha Rage, private servers, the new Mythic Plus Dungeon system, talking about a little bit of testing, doing some raid testing, so we must be getting close to a quote-unquote Legion beta. I'm going to lead you through what I like to think of as the Blizzcon ticket prep guide, and at the end of today's show, I will be doing a review of the new book, Illidan. It was a good read, folks. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's get into it with our first segment. The Alpha Rage is strong. Let's go! Let's rage! Over the past 10 days or so, it seems, we've had quite a bit of discussion going back and forth between alpha testers and the developers over at Blizzard about how things are shaping up in the alpha, specifically with regard to the new class order halls, followers, weekly missions, daily missions, endgame questing, all that kind of good stuff. And it has devolved into what usually happens, which is just a stew of madness, essentially, where half-completed pieces of information and work are being put out there for the developers to have testers take a look at, and people completely lose their shit. Now, I, for one, am not, as we know, in the alpha. I haven't played it myself. I have not actually had hands-on experience, so what I am coming to you with is I'm coming to you with sort of an outside opinion in the sense that this is part of the cycle, folks. As the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, so too do the alpha testers lose their shit. Developers have to come back, make a very long blue post about calm your shit, and then it kind of goes away for a while, and then we start up again and go through this round and round and round. So, two things really. One, if you are an alpha tester, you should know this is an alpha. If we're going to go with the traditional alpha, then beta, then pre-release, then release patching system. Okay. If you are in the alpha, you should be seeing very incomplete things. You should be seeing items which are not yet fully fleshed out. Items that are being, maybe battered around within the confines of the Blizzard compound where they think, let's give this a try. Let's see if this thing works. Let's see what happens when we put this into play. It's a testing ground. It's a free-for-all. It's intended to be that way. None of this stuff is intended to go live as is, at least to some degree. You are there to offer insight, to offer your play style, to say, hey, this is what I do, this is how this fits in, this is how this doesn't fit in, whatever. So, calm your tits. Just relax, okay? When you are in there, you are a privileged individual, and believe me, you are privileged. There are plenty of people who are not getting access to any of this stuff. We're watching YouTube videos, reading Wowhead, and generally just playing with ourselves until we have a chance to take a look at it. So you are privileged, so relax. You're one of the cool kids. You get to check it out. So once you get in there, what are you seeing? Keep this in mind. It's incomplete. All right? So you didn't like garrisons. So they were a bust for you. You know what? I have made more money with fucking garrisons than I have with anything else. So I'm really not going to complain that much. But yes, it does look like they're implementing some sort of Garrison 2.0, like Garrison Light. That's a Garrison Light. That's fine. You're going to be leading your class and having some badass champions going around, and you're going to help them kick the shit out of stuff, and you're going to get some things, and it's going to be rad. There'll be some endgame questing mishmash of daily quests and this. It seems pretty clear to me. I've read the blue posts. I watched the presentations. This doesn't seem all that hard to comprehend. But for some reason, I see a lot of people going nuts. This is the worst it's ever been. The same stuff we've been hearing since time immemorial. All right? Nothing new. So, that's one. Relax. You guys, if you're in the alpha, you're getting to see some pretty cool shit. Just consider yourselves lucky. Chill. 2. Now that you've enhanced your calm, you've taken a deep breath, you've gone through some of the content, and you do have legitimate concerns. There are things that don't line up. There are bugs that are not being addressed. There are incomplete issues here and there. Offer constructive feedback. I know that Lore put up a post the other day about, what kind of feedback they look for. Read that. Take it to heart. I mean, it's a corporate answer, yes. It's a corporate answer in the sense that they're saying, okay, hey, look, this is how we'd like feedback. Here's the constructed way that we'd like that. Here's what's helpful. Use that to your advantage, people. Use it to your advantage. I don't know if there's anybody listening to the sound of my voice that even has alpha access, but if you do, provide constructive feedback. Structure it in a way that you can point to what it is. Don't speak in hysterical terms. Say, hey, here's what I've seen. Here's what it is. This is what it looks like. I don't know if this is working as intended. Keep the conversation neutral and constructive. You want to get hysterical? Let me be hysterical. I'm on here to get hysterical. You, the alpha testers, should not be getting hysterical. All right? That's my job. That's the job of these other assholes out here. All of us out here spewing our opinions that nobody asked for. But you guys, the chosen ones, the chosen few, use your time wisely and constructively when you are in the alpha. Take the feedback that you get and relax and help us out. Because you are our voices in there. And you're blowing it. You're blowing it by going apeshit. Let me go apeshit out here. You guys have to be the filter. So relax. Take your time. Put in constructive feedback and be groovy. All right. That sounds good. Now, it's time for some news. And now it's time for News and the Blues. So the first piece of news that I wanted to talk about this episode was the closure of a private vanilla server known as Nostalrius. This, in case you haven't heard of these, there are servers that exist that are hosted around various dark places. They're not really that dark. They're pretty easy to find, actually. There are servers that are hosted that contain on them prior versions of World of Warcraft. These are unlicensed games that are being run on here. It's kind of like going to a cockfight, I guess. It's like the cockfight of Warcraft. And what these are earlier iterations, and one of the most famous is this one here, Nostalrius, which ran a vanilla version of the game. So it was the game as it existed, 10 years or so ago. There are servers that host Burning Crusade editions, Wrath editions. There are plenty of people who love older versions of the game, as you've no doubt heard people lament in every forum that exists related to this game. This was one that had hundreds of thousands of people on it. It had a very high count. Of course, any number that is given for these things is circumspect at best, but they are claiming that there were hundreds of thousands of people that used these servers, or this one in particular. And it raises an interesting topic of conversation for the player base, which is, what is the viability of legacy servers? There are other games that have them. There's at least one other that I have seen recently. And it is something that players have talked about for many years, which is, why can't we have some older version of the game? We're very nostalgic. I will tell you, nostalgia is a motherfucker. And if it's one drug that hooks me in time and again, it is the great drug of nostalgia. I think of BC like my own childhood. And it was just, a handful of years ago, really. But it feels like such a magical time. So much was unexplored and so much I didn't know. And it was just, you're just thinking about it now. it just brings me into this sweet cocoon that I don't want to emerge from. And I think that that's probably what many people feel when they think of the old days, when they first came in and everything was new and young and fresh. They want to recapture that feeling. Blizzard has come out several times and said that legacy servers are not something that they're interested in, that there are things that existed in those earlier versions of the game that they don't like. Items that were broken or functions that didn't line up. They don't have essentially support for them in any way, and it's just not something that they would want to do. Now, coming out of the closure of this private server, there is a petition that has been launched to get Mike Morhaim's attention to say, hey, Blizzard, you guys have the money and the resources. Come on. This is something that we can do. And as it stands right now, the petition on change.org has more than 150,000 people signed on, with not that many. I think they only need 200,000 in order to get some sort of response, I guess is how this works. That number seems to be climbing at a pretty steady rate. I have no idea how you verify that there aren't, 100 accounts per person or there's not duplications, but that does say a lot. It is a conversation that is worth having, it appears. I don't know if anything like this will ever change Blizzard's mind, but it is something that people do want. There are at least enough people out there to sign a petition to risk their ability to play these games by hosting servers and getting involved. And I don't know if I would ever really want to go back for that long. I think that, again, nostalgia is a great thing because you don't actually get to touch whatever it is that you're looking at. I know that there are times in my life when I look back at a thing and in the rose-colored glasses of the rearview mirror, things look amazing. You look upon events and you think, God, what a great time that was, or what fun I had, or all of these wonderful, warm memories that you may have of that particular time and place. And that's not to say that those things aren't true. However, whenever I have those moments and I sit and I seriously think about what it was that made these moments great, it was usually because I was escaping from something else. Even when you look back at these times that are great, there are things that I would not change with my life then for what is now. No way. As much as I like the idea of being able to go back and have the rating guild that I had, or to be able to have some of those fresh new experiences, that won't change. I think that going back and looking at an older version of the game, there may be some things that I would enjoy doing again, but I don't know if I would want to persist in that world any longer than taking a few snapshots and heading back out and kicking ass, having Titan's grip, and doing all the fun stuff that I like to do now. So, closure of a private server, big deal. I'm sure we'll see more, and this topic will come up again, but something that you guys should definitely be aware of. So let's jump now from the past into the present and talk about Legion. Now, again, I don't have alpha access. It's not something I'm going to actually have my own hands on, but I thought that this was something worth talking about, and that is the introduction of yet another advanced level of dungeons. While the exact name for these dungeons doesn't seem to be set in stone, or at least Blizzard hasn't decided exactly what they want to call them, for now we are calling them Mythic Plus. So right now, you can jump in and do dungeons on Mythic mode. You can look for these extra challenges, these challenge mode dungeons where you have, these timers and you're trying to get through a series of challenges on an expedited timetable. You have to pull out all kinds of crazy stunts and gimmicks to get through it. This is looking to push that envelope even further. So let's say you've got you and 4 good buddies that just smash through this stuff. You've got gold rankings on everything. You've gotten all the old cool Challenger gear and all the stuff that they had. Well, now this is for you. So I probably will never see a whiff of these, but it's an interesting topic to look at nonetheless. So what do they involve? Well, the basic idea is that as you progress through these mythic dungeons, you can increase their difficulty using what Blizzard is calling these affixes. So there are several levels of these affixes, it seems like, and there are 45-minute timers that you will have to beat each dungeon upon. And with each completion, you will get upgrades to a keystone that will be used to increase the difficulty. These affixes, they have several of them, and they each do something a little bit different. So, for instance, you have the affix of decay. So all players will lose 1% of their max health every 2 seconds. Skittish. Enemies pay far less attention to threat generated by tanks. Volcanic. While in combat, enemies periodically cause gouts of flame to erupt beneath the feet of distant players. Necrotic. All enemies' melee attacks apply a stacking blight that inflicts damage over time and reduces healing received. Teaming. Additional non-boss enemies are present throughout the dungeon. Raging. Non-boss enemies enrage at 30% health remaining, dealing 100% increased damage until defeated. Bolstering. When any non-boss enemy dies, its death cry empowers nearby allies, increasing their maximum health and damage by 20%. And tyrannical. Boss enemies have 50% more health and inflict up to 30% increased damage. Needless to say, you've got a wealth of challenge there. And I think that it's important that Blizzard pays attention to this, and I'll tell you why. One of the things about Legion that I found to be disappointing was the lack of the replayability of the dungeons. Going back to what people say about the garrisons, and I do believe that this is a fair complaint, is that they made some of the upper-end activities more trivial. So, for instance, doing the dungeons. I had no reason to go back and do dungeons. Once I got to max level, I'm off raiding, I've got garrison rewards giving me upgrades. It just wasn't something that interested me anymore. With the mythic dungeons, well, it's still just, it really wasn't enough to entice me to go back in there. You could get your justice points and you get some upgrades and those kinds of things, and that's good. It's something that you should encourage if you are, let's say, on a raid team and you're stuck on something and you need just a couple of extra points in every category to help push you past. That's the kind of thing where, okay, it's good, but you're not really doing it because there's a lot of reward. Again, you're grinding. You're not looking for specific rewards. You're not doing it because there's a particular challenge involved. You're doing it because, well, you need the points to do the thing, and man, that's boring as fuck. And I don't necessarily want to have to do any of that. So at least with this, now you're having an option to make these known dungeons, and by the time you get there, I'm sure they'll run them a couple of times, they'll have some new content. They'll have some new challenge to think about. How do you overcome constantly losing your health? How do you deal with tanks not having threat? I mean, depending on the raid team you're on, that could be something you're dealing with already. It could be a matter of how do you deal with extra ads, or how do you survive longer boss fights. That adds a level of challenge that I think the players who are interested in this type of content are looking for. And I say bravo to Blizzard for actually looking into something like this, and again, trying to take a chance where perhaps this could be something that only 1 or 2% of your player base does, but it is a good step in the right direction, I think, in terms of looking at ways to make content that becomes rote into something that becomes interesting again. One other piece of alpha news that I thought was worth mentioning is that Blizzard has had raid testing now of the Emerald Nightmare raid. One of the things that you can typically look to when you're trying to guess, okay, we're all trying to play this game right now, right? Of when does Legion come out? What are we looking at? Well, they said summer. Well, technically summer runs until September. Do we really think it's going to go that long? Are people going to freak out when they see, oh, it's going to be September 20th? I mean, I guess it's still summer, technically, or something. But we're all playing this game, right? We're trying to figure out, okay, let's see. We've got how long for the pre-expansion patch, and then we'll have to have some sort of PTR testing still. We still have to get to a beta at some point. And what are the road markers? What are the indicators? What tells us that we're getting close? Well, raid testing is one of those things. So Blizzard has opened up some testing for the Emerald Nightmare raids, and in total they had 4 bosses, 2 heroic, and 2 mythic. So this isn't just some, hey, do we, have enough space and time to have some players in here. They're actually looking at some of the more advanced fights. So to me, I think that puts us in a good place. I think, I've said this before, I think Legion, we're probably looking at the end of August, like that last week of August. This, in my mind, does put us closer to a beta, either early June, maybe late May, something like that, with the pre-patch not too far after. Listen, folks, I don't think beta is going to be that long. I think this alpha is really a beta. This is what I've said all along. Whatever beta it is that they're doing, I don't think it can be much, because the alpha used to be an internal thing from what I remember. So the fact that there are so many people that are out there and streaming it and watching it and playing it right now, that to me is, I mean, it's like beta light. I don't know, it's beta and a half. It's alpha and a half, somewhere in between. I don't know. It's like a black and white cake. You got a little bit of everything in there. Not quite chocolate, not quite vanilla. So that's what this thing is right now. So with the Mythic raid testing that is happening right now, I think it puts us on a good pace. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it to you guys this week. But more important than any of that is BlizzCon. And specifically, BlizzCon tickets go on sale this week. That's right. You have two chances, as has been the case in years past. On Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then again on Saturday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You will have your chance to score your sweet, sweet BlizzCon tickets. These tickets are $199 a piece. That's kind of what they've been for a few years now. I think it's, quite honestly, not a bad deal considering all that you're getting. And this year, the tickets are going to be sold through a website called Universe. So before they had Eventbrite, and then before they had some other nonsense that didn't work. And every year, inevitably without fail, the system fucks up. For whatever reason, Blizzard has not, I don't know if Ticketmaster's too much. I don't know if a professional high volume ticket company just isn't the way. But for whatever reason, they want to pick these other companies, and they always screw up. You hear these nightmare stories about people who get stuck in these queues, or they get stuck in these waiting rooms and nobody knows what's going on, and then you get kicked out, then you get brought back in. It's a disaster. So this is what we're going to do. I, Berserker, am going to share with you the secrets, my secrets, to scoring your very own BlizzCon tickets. First things first, you have to pregame a little bit. You can't just show up like 2 minutes before and be like, all right, I'm good to go. But let's do this. This will be no problem. I'll just click, get some tickets, no big deal. Listen, if it happens that way for you, good for you. Go out and buy some lottery tickets too. For the rest of us, this is no laughing matter. This is as serious as a heart attack. And here's what you got to do. First things first. The website, as I mentioned before, universe.com, is where the tickets are being sold through this year. So first thing, go to this website. Go to universe.com. Make yourself an account. Whatever easy name and password you can remember, go in there, fill it full of your information. Do whatever you have to do ahead of time. You do not want to have to mess around with any of this crap later. So do that. Go to the BlizzCon 2016 portion on that website. So go to universe.com, go /BlizzCon 2016. Go to that website, bookmark it. You don't want to be fumbling around looking for this junk later. Now, I've gone ahead, and I have looked at this. There will be a little button that says Get Tickets. You're not going to want to have to refresh, right? F5, mashing F5. Well, this one's going to be a little bit weirder. You don't have to do F5. All you have to do is hit that Get Tickets button, and a little window will pop up. And right now it'll say there are no tickets available because they haven't turned the thing on yet. But what I have seen that you can do is just hit Escape, and you close that window. So when the time comes, you want to have that loaded up, and you want to have that page ready. You want to be signed into your account already and locked and loaded and ready to go. Okay, so that's one part of it. The other part of it, well, it's kind of up to you a little bit, but it's your own machine. Do you have good internet? Are you somewhere far off in a jungle somewhere? Are you in the desert? Do you have a crappy dial-up modem kind of thing? All right, I can't help you. I'm sorry. This is probably not one of your high priorities if that's the case. But if you are in any way able to get a better internet connection, I would. Spend an extra $5 a month. Get that upgrade. Get the faster speed. Why not? You're going to use it anyway. And this is a damn good reason to do it. So make sure your internet connection is, well, stable and at least somewhat fast. Now, 2, go into your rig. Go into that computer of yours. Turn everything off. I don't care. You want to download that moose porn later? That sounds good. Don't do it right now. You want to see that clown fucking a midget? You do that on someone else's time. This is Blizzcon time. This is serious shit here. Turn everything off. Turn off Norton nonsense. Turn off all your other websites. Turn off Skype. You can talk to grandma later. You turn off, what else you got there? Mumble or Discord or whatever it is. Talk to those fools later. Turn all that stuff off. Save for one thing. One thing only. And you don't even have to use your computer for this. If you got any kind of phone or some machine that'll play some music, get that music queued up. Whether it's, get that Winamp. Winamp, is that? No, they closed that shit. Whips the llama's ass. Whatever that was. Oh, man, that was good shit. Get some music queued up. Get your headphones on. And with 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes before the time comes. So we're talking 6:50 Wednesday night or 9:50 Saturday morning. Get your headphones on. Cue up your music. Everything's turned off on that computer. You got the website loaded. You got all of your passwords punched in. You're good to go. Hit that music. And you focus. If you've got friends, family, roommates, the Pope's coming by, you got the building inspector, you got whoever it is, the president's coming down to your house, send them all away. Send them all away. Tell Henry Kissinger that you will give him foreign policy advice later. You need complete silence. You're like a monk. You're like Batman when he was waiting for that guy to start training him. You're sitting there alone and quiet in perfect solitude. That's what you want. And you sit there and you focus. You focus on that screen and you let whatever music that you've chosen pour into your body. Let it take over your soul as you're focusing. You focus on this screen. You know, as the moments coming closer, as the minutes tick down, you can see that laser focus. Your vision begins to narrow. And suddenly you don't even really hear the music anymore. You're just in the zone. You're ready. You're ready. The minutes tick by. And then, when the moment comes, you strike. Right at 9:59, start clicking that button. Start hitting escape. Click that button. Hit escape. Click that button. Hit escape. And you just get into this rhythm. Get into a rhythm like a StarCraft player. Just start typing. Just start clicking. Nothing's going to be happening just quite yet. But you never know what time they're on. Hopefully you're all in the same time. But not everybody follows the atomic clock. Just click and keep going. And you just stay focused. Just stay focused. And when you get through that cycle, eventually that window will pop up and it'll say, how many tickets do you want? And boom. You stay calm. You stay focused. You hit however many it is that you need. 2, you're just going with your favorite bro. Cool. 3, you're bringing another friend. Awesome. 4, you got some guildies that hit you up. Do it. Click that button and click proceed. And then you are in to the promised land. I don't know with this particular website if you're going to have multiple chances or not. Doesn't sound like there's a waiting room, but you stay in that focus. And if you don't get in on Wednesday night, you pause at that moment and you wait. Hold that energy, hold that focus. Remember that moment and bring it with you to Saturday morning. And when that moment arrives, get yourself that window of time. Send everyone away. Cue up your music. Get those headphones on. Get ready. And you just focus and you focus and you get in there and you're clicking and you're typing and you're clicking and you're typing. And then once all is done, once all is submitted, you got a confirmation email in your hand. Scream. Let loose your barbaric yawp over the rooftops of the world, for you are going to BlizzCon. And if in some small way I have helped you achieve this goal, then I say congratulations. Enjoy the show. And now, to end this week, let's talk about a happy little guy called Illidan. So just this past Tuesday, April the 12th of 2016, World of Warcraft Illidan was finally released to the general public by author William King. Now, if you're not familiar with William King's works, which I really was not, he is a former designer for Games Workshop who produces the Warhammer series, and he also wrote several books contained within that universe. So rather than having Christy Golden or Richard Knack, as Warcraft has done many times in the past, they have reached out this time and sought an unfamiliar author to this realm. Now, my guess after reading this book is that they wanted somebody with maybe a grittier look at things. And so I'd like to give you a peek into this book without being too spoilery. There are some things that you just can't avoid. But the biggest thing about this book that struck me right off was the fact that this was not meant to be the traditional bridge book that you had in the past, where before this we've had books that explain the trial of Garrosh, or what happened with Thrall and the Elements, or these various things that bridge from Cataclysm to Mists, or from Mists to Draenor. This is more of a book that recasts the history of the Burning Crusade, which, like I said, nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and this book is thick with it. And what it does is it explains to a greater detail, and in sort of a way, and not sort of a way, it retcons, essentially, the purpose of Illidan Stormrage and his existence in Outland during the Burning Crusade era. And this tale is told from the viewpoint of essentially four characters, one being Illidan, one being his jailer pursuer, and eventual, I guess, killer? I don't know. Maiev Shadowsong, Warden Maiev Shadowsong, Akama, who we saw all throughout the Burning Crusade. We even fought his Shade, which they explain the existence of in this book. And from a character that, well, I'm not going to name him. I'll let you guys read this and figure it out. But this book does introduce the new class, the Demon Hunter, and it follows the tale of one of them. And let me tell you, the process for becoming a Demon Hunter makes the Death Knights look like a bunch of whiny pussies. This shit was ugly. I'm telling you, it is a nasty, brutal, gritty, awful, foul thing to become a Demon Hunter. You really, really have to hate the Legion to walk down this path, especially the way that this book illustrates this so vibrantly within its pages. But the main thing above all was that it served as a piece to redeem Illidan, and as we had always known him in previous iterations, he is the betrayer, right? He's the one who helped the Legion. He was the one who tried to start a second Well of Eternity. He was always at odds with the greater good, always claiming that he had some more noble purpose in mind. And this book, well, it does a pretty damn good job of explaining just exactly what that is, and how singularly focused Illidan is on the destruction of the Legion. Make no mistake, this is the one and only thing that he cares about. In going through the book, there was one quote that I thought summed up the book really perfectly, and I'm going to read it to you now. It says, "For all his gigantic flaws, Illidan was the only being who really grasped what they fought, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to end the threat. He might well be mad. His schemes might well be doomed to failure. But he was better than the alternative." And that gives you a pretty good idea of what this book was about. Going through Maiev as she had to chase after Illidan once he was broken out, as I discussed in a previous episode, The History of Illidan. This should be coming the Illidan show at some point, it seems like. When he was broken out by Tyrande, what was Maev's thought pattern at that point? What was her role? What was she up to as she chased him through Outland, as she sought to capture him once again? What was Akama's role? What was he doing all this time? He was the leader of the Broken, but yet he aligned with Illidan. Why? What would be the purpose of that? We know, going through the Shadowmoon Valley quests in Outland, that he had some plans in mind. He wasn't always going to just sit idly by, but what really were his motives at that point? And what was Illidan doing this whole time? For players that went through the Burning Crusade, we didn't really see Illidan a whole lot. That was kind of one of the complaints that we had was, well, you didn't really see him until you got to Black Temple, and even then it was only at the end, and that's part of the reason why when you play Wrath of the Lich King is everywhere. So they went from, doing the Blizzard thing, one extreme to the other. But now we have this new element of the Demon Hunters. Remember, we didn't see them, right? We didn't see Demon Hunters. The thing didn't exist back then. It was an idea I think that Blizzard had, but there was no material proof of this thing yet. And so part of what the book does is it weaves their existence around events that we played through as characters or that we saw. This entire book really only takes, in its point of view, a few months, and it ends with the death of Illidan at the top of Black Temple. So that's a little bit of a spoiler there, but the reason that I tell you this is that is as far as the book goes. It doesn't tell us what happens after that. It doesn't give us any sort of epilogue. That is it. It leads us through essentially our campaign, and for some little bit of period before, up until we assault the Black Temple. And one of the coolest things that this book does is that it actually plays out our fight against Illidan. It mentions different characters and the abilities that they use and how they go about downing him in this fight. It talks about even the mechanics that he uses when he throws the warglaives down on the ground and then you get the big flames that come out and all that kind of stuff. It actually walks you through the fight, which is, I think, one of the damn coolest things that I've ever read in one of these books. But it all serves this purpose, to lead us now into Legion and try to understand what was Illidan doing. And there were things that Illidan discovered about the Legion. There were things that motivated him. There were places that they went. There were actions that were taken on a very grand scale. Because let me tell you, make no mistake about it, Illidan is extraordinarily powerful. And I don't think that within the game they've ever demonstrated that very well. But in this book, they do a fabulous job, William King does, of elucidating just how crazily powered Illidan is. And hopefully that's something we're going to see as we come into Legion. We know that he's around. I mean, essentially, it's no secret at this point that he, he's the anti-hero, but he's not evil. He's not, he's not one of the Burning Legion. He's out there to fight the Burning Legion. He is singularly focused. He's done some really bad shit. But we're going through his redemption process now. And there is one particular scene in this book that I will not spoil that leads you to believe that there is a destiny for Illidan that transcends even what we've seen so far. And it is pretty freaking epic. I'll be curious to see, since this is canon, this is something that is blessed by the great god Metzen himself, I'll be curious to see how some of these events that are foretold will play out. But there is some foreshadowing in that, and it's one of the reasons that this book was such a great read. It was a fairly fast read. It's about 300-odd pages all the way through, and I got through it in just a couple of nights. So if you read, this shouldn't take you very long, and I highly recommend that you pick this up to get you up to speed with what is happening in Legion, to give you that backstory of the Demon Hunters, to give you insight into Warden Maiev, Shadowsong, and what she's thinking about, what motivates her, to even give you some background on Akama. He was a cool guy. You kind of get a better sense of all of the shit that guy had to go through. Now that we've been to Draenor, we've seen what Karabor looked like, and then to see how it turned into the Black Temple and what that represented to somebody who held that place in such high, holy regard and esteem. It was quite a journey. I would say that this is not as emotional as some of the previous books in terms of their impact. Theramore blowing up and other people dying and those kinds of things. There was some pretty heavy shit in the previous books. This one's heavy in a different way. Kind of a badass sort of way that I think that they intended. For all in all, Legion is well served by having this book. It is a great read. I highly recommend it. If you're a lore junkie, pick this sucker up. Well, if you're a lore junkie, you've picked this up already. But If you haven't, you can get this at any reputable or irreputable dealer that you can find of books. I got mine from Amazon, so go wherever you like to buy books, pick a copy of this up, get it into your mind right away, and get ready for Legion, because this is a good one. So that does it for this, episode 9 of Unshackled Fury. Thank you very much for joining me once again on this little experiment of mine. You can always follow me on Twitter at Berserker Rage, or the show itself on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher. If you have the need to send me any comments, questions, or otherwise via email, you can reach me at unshackledfuryshow@gmail.com. So until we meet again, I wish you all luck on your Blizzcon ticket buying experiences. And with that, strength and honor.